Blog Talk Radio.
And in those days, there were giants in the land, and the sons of the angels of God looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and took of them wives, and their sons became of old great men of renown. So they have been mixing with us on a genetic level since the time of Enoch and Ezekiel's will.
Here on Earth we're intrigued by the sun, moon, and stars, and imagine there's got to be planets like ours. So conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose we lost. That indeed they believe that these might be our gods, or that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve and eventually reach what they seek and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they fall in the works of our hands, all by just filthy rags. So we travel the lands to dig up our past. Time elapses and with it are much of the facts. Some imagine that God came in alien craft. They react in this way, they're so desperate for meaning and purpose, but satanic service, they know that they have evil motives. Am I making you nervous? I'm just scratching the surface. The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. In the blink of an eye, all believers will be raptured. Anyone left receives a mark or the caption. This leader will arise, claim his origins are alien, possessed by Satan on the side of the Nephilim. Profess those who left held us back from evolving, and now that they're gone, we'll solve all of Earth's problems. The worship of any one God will be halted, evolving to gods and ourselves be exalted. They'll play on these lines, and in time they'll devise and arrive at a plan that will help hypnotize all the ones left behind, the spiritually blind. He's stolen their souls, now he's stealing their minds. It's already started, we're seeing the signs. Just study the word, prophecies all aligned. They'll chop off the heads of all those who fight at one earth, one world. Aren't you excited? The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near.
Hello, readers, listeners, and viewers. This is Zen Garcia with FallenAngels.tv. It's March 20th, 2009, the first day of spring, and it's glorious out here in Athens, Georgia. We're streaming live from the East Coast. I have today with me Luca Scantamburlo, a freelance journalist and author from Italy, and he is the one that was instrumental in bringing us the Apollo story and in covering in more details the videos that were released by William Rutledge on YouTube and other sites like Rever.com, and it has caused quite a stir. I myself, upon finding and viewing the videos, tried to get in contact with the leakers of the videos, but was unsuccessful in ascertaining that contact. But our guest today, Luca Scantamburlo, has actually interviewed over general messages through a YouTube account William Rutledge and another person who is as yet remains anonymous, a Commander 19. Luca Scantamburlo, thank you for joining us, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us an introduction on yourself, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Zane. Good evening to all your listeners, and good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to stay with you and to say a few words about my experience, about what I have understood and what I can remember, because this is a big story, and I'm not the owner of the truth. I got some little pieces of a big puzzle. It costed me a lot of pain, and it was very difficult for me to try to break the wall of the mass media silence. I got the attention from, for example, the Kevin Smith show in United States, in Phoenix, in Arizona. Even Bob Kivian, I think he works for the Fox, the network, the TV network Fox. But he had a conversation, a phone conversation with Kevin Smith, and they talked a lot about what I did and about the interview with William Rutledge, the alleged, the presumed commander of the Apollo 20 mission, which officially never occurred. Because the last Apollo mission is not the Apollo 17, which took place in December 1972, if I remember. It was the last mission, the moon, for a crew. But it was the Apollo 18, and you can find some reference on NASA documents online. And the Apollo 18 was part of a joint mission. It was a rendezvous in orbit between the Soyuz 19 capsule, a Soviet capsule, and the Apollo 18, the American capsule, and there was the historical meeting in the space between the two crews, the American crew and the Soviet crew. So Apollo 19 and Apollo 20 officially never occurred, and they were canceled missions because of problems of budget. But we are talking about some classified missions. According to our sources, one is William Rutledge, and on YouTube, his YouTube nickname was and is still now retired AFB, and the other source of information, another whistleblower, is Moonwalker 1966 Delta on YouTube, and you told the general public before that he is anonymous. Yes, but I know his name. I know his name, but for the moment, I don't want to disclose the name because it doesn't make sense. First of all, because I have to protect his identity, and even I'm not sure that he is the guy he told me he is, but I had some clues that he is a sincere person. And I can give you later on, during our conversation, some details about what I have understood.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Before we go into this story, and I agree with you, it is an astounding story, needs to be told, the world needs to be made aware of it. But before we go into the Apollo 19 and 20 missions, I'm asking you, do you think that those missions were classified and made covert because of the target and what they were going up there to do? That being locating and landing near and exploring this so-called cigar-shaped alien spacecraft on the dark side of the moon.
What I strongly believe, what I am convinced, it is that if there are evidence in the solar system of extraterrestrial artifacts, everybody must remember what the Brookings Institution made during the last century, in the 60 years of the last century, at the House of Representatives, at the U.S. Congress, there was a relation report by the Brookings Institution, and inside the Brookings Institution report, there was written clearly that many scientists, we are talking about, scientists of from many fields of knowledge, anthropologists, people expert in sociology. It was a think tank, and they made this report for NASA. And the report made some recommendations, for NASA. And NASA was born 1958 during the Eisenhower administration. The recommendation
Do you know the name?
was very...
The name of that report?
The name of the report, let me remember. Just a moment.
Okay, sure.
I have a piece of paper here with me. So.
Okay. Let me just also cite to the
The
listeners
name was
and viewers.
Proposed Studies on the Implications of Peaceful Activities for Human Affairs. Inside the report, then, there was written that in case of finding any kind of evidence of extraterrestrial artifacts in the solar system, the recommendation was the possibility to withdraw from the public the existence of this artifact. This is an official document. So if there is an evidence on the far side of the moon of, a big spacecraft made by someone else, it is obvious to follow the recommendation made by the Brookings Institution during the 60 years of the last century.
Which is to cover it up and to hide it from the public.
Yeah, but the goal was very simple, to avoid the social disorder, to avoid any kind of problem. I can read a few passages so we can understand better. Inside the document, there is written, anthropological files contain many examples of societies sure of their place in the universe, which have disintegrated when they had to associate with previously unfamiliar societies, exposing different ideas and different life ways. Others that survived such an experience usually did so by paying the price of changes in values, and attitudes, and behavior. So the first point was to avoid any kind of problems. It is obvious that an agenda of cover-up started because of the recommendation made by a group of scientists, very important.
Right.
It is an official document presented at the U.S. Congress in the United States.
Right, and so it's been part of our legacy as our culture and as our government guides the affairs of the world to basically hide the truth from the people.
Yeah, but at the same time, I remember Barry Goldwater. He was a candidate for the presidential elections in the United States. He wanted to become a president of the United States. He was one of your senators, and he wrote a letter many years ago. I remember, it was in 1975. And in the letter, he wrote that he knew that there was also not only an agenda of cover-up, but at the same time, the people at the highest levels who had, who had the need to know, and at the same time they were elaborating an agenda for disclosure to help the people. So at the same time you have an agenda of cover-up and an agenda of disclosure, what we can call public acclimation program.
Right.
So the problem is, we are talking about the Apollo 19, the Apollo 20 missions. Are they part of this public acclimation program?
And the release of these videos.
So I'm convinced that they are part of it, because there are some evidence that nobody can deny. For example, there are NASA pictures, many of them, and they are official, and all of them indicate some anomalies on the far side of the moon. And between them, there is the cigar-shaped object, which was pointed out by William Rutledge. So we have a story in which we have contradictions, we have contamination, because not all the footage material is authentic.
Right.
And
we're going to talk about that as well.
Yes. And by the same time, you have something that has a value. And I am very, disappointed, because even before that, someone on YouTube found out that there was a contamination and there was a fake among all the videos uploaded on YouTube. Even before, there was not a single newspaper, not a single, journalist far away from the ufological community who wrote a single word on this subject. So this story was completely, how do you say in English? Nobody paid attention to the story. I'm talking
Ignored.
about, yes, ignored. I'm talking about the big media.
Right. Well, let's.
It doesn't make sense, because you have, official NASA pictures with an outstanding anomaly. Another thing that I don't understand. Do you know Richard Hoagland? Thanks.
No, not personally, but yes, I do know of him.
you know his name. He's very famous.
Right.
So Richard Hoagland was responsible for the media, the media, and the relationship among NASA and public during the 70s, if I remember. No, he is not a scientist, but he is a scientific journalist. We can call him like this. And he knows about the story, about the Apollo 19 and 20, because of Paula Harris, who lives in the United States, had an interview with him. And she asked him something about the story.
Really?
And yes, Richard Hoagland said a few words about the story. But I was very surprised, because he didn't say anything about the cigar-shaped object. So for a few minutes, they talk a lot about NASA, secret codes, and secret groups inside NASA. But Richard Hoagland didn't say anything about what he thinks about the anomaly. And this is amazing, because Richard Hoagland did an outstanding job in exploring, the anomalies in the solar system, on Mars, on the moon.
Right.
So I don't understand. Really, I don't understand. Maybe
what did
this
he
story
say,
is
Luca?
too big. Sorry?
What did Richard say, Luca? I mean, as far as he said, she made a comment.
I don't remember the exact words in the interview, but I remember that Paula Harris and Richard Hoagland talked a lot together about the space exploration, the secrets of space exploration, and what the Apollo 19 and 20 story could mean. But the result of the conversation is not about the anomaly on the moon. This is the point, that I don't understand.
Well, let's go into the story, Luca. Can you tell us about the Apollo 19 and 20 missions? Because for those listeners and viewers who are new to this story, who don't know about what the cigar-shaped craft or the Moon City or the other other triangular ships that are not familiar with your articles, can you give us a brief summary of the Apollo 19 and 20 missions?
I will try to do my best, but you have to forgive me, and I apologize with the public if my English is not enough good, if my English is not very well, So first of all, I want to apologize. So I will try to summarize the story. I had the honor, I think, to have two interviews. The first one was at the end of May 2007, and I had an interview with the whistleblower who on YouTube uploaded many videos about a classified mission, Apollo 20. And later on he revealed to me that he is William Rutledge, a test pilot employed by United States Air Force. And he was a test pilot, and he was chosen by the United States Air Force to participate to this classified mission in collaboration with the Soviets. Because first the Soviets in 1966, and he didn't know how they could get the information. They found out on the far side of the moon, which is not visible from here, from the Earth, and they found out the evidence of a big spaceship. We are talking about, now, I can say this, for more than 4 kilometers long. A derelict spacecraft, covered with dust. And then, even because of the Apollo 15 and Apollo 17 pictures taken at the beginning of the 70 years of the last century, even NASA was able to get evidence, photographic evidence. So they decided to go to the moon together, but without knowledge, from the public. And it was a joint mission, 3 people, 3 astronauts. Before Apollo 20, there was the Apollo 19 mission, and it was a dramatic failure. William Rutledge told me that all the astronauts died. And another whistleblower who came out last year, and in 2008, I had the honor to interview him. He told me that it is not correct. It is true that they had an accident in space at the end of the TLI, the Trans-Lunar Injection, but they survived, and he is one of them. This is what he told me. And as a matter of fact, on YouTube, he uploaded some videos. Some of them are the same videos. Just one of them, if I remember, is the same video already uploaded by retired AFB, which means William Rutledge. And it is the test Snyder ingress, if I remember. So you can see a couple of astronauts. They are going inside into a capsule, and there are some technicians. One of them is a NASA technician. It looks like a NASA technician. And the other 2 guys look like Rockwell technicians, because on the white overall, on the back, there is the Rockwell logo. So Rockwell, the North America Rockwell and the Rockwell International was a big firm, a big corporation, which worked for the Department of Defense and NASA. And for example, if I remember, for NASA built the second stage of Saturn V, and also they built the command and service modules, not the lunar excursion module, which was built by Grumman aircraft, the Grammar, but the CSM, the command and service module. So we have a footage uploaded by William Rutledge, and the same footage uploaded by Moonwalker 1966 Delta, who is the second whistleblower of this story. But other footages were uploaded a few months ago, and the last one was uploaded, if I remember, just a few months ago. It is the Apollo 19 incident, which would be the evidence that there was an incident in space, you can hear on YouTube a dramatic dialogue. But what it is amazing to me, again, it is that only 2,000 people watched the footage. And among all the footage, this is what I believe the most important. Because you cannot debunk it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are living in an era in which fiction and reality, are very close. At the border, it's difficult to find the border between fiction and reality because of the level of technology,
Right, the Hollywood and all that.
Yeah, and not only Hollywood, because now we have a technology to do something very close to magic. But I'm sure at the same time that a footage like that everybody can see on YouTube. Just you have to look for on YouTube on the search engine Moonwalker 1966 Delta, and you will find the Apollo 19 incident. You can hear a dramatic dialogue, and the people who are talking are, I think, absolutely are American-born citizens because of their accent, and they are talking about an incident in space, and they have a technical, very specific language, and not a single researcher on internet wrote anything. Nobody spent a single word on it. So the problem
and this
is
could be
the people want the truth, but when they have the truth, they don't have the eyes or the patience or the time to watch and to face the truth.
Right, or the will to search it out completely. One of the things that I found fascinating about this story, because I, like you, I wanted to do research into it, and when I found out about it, I was fascinated with the concept and with the possibility. So I wanted to know as much as I could about it, and that was actually when I came up with your articles and with all the research that you yourself had done. But one of the things, let me finish this thought real quick, Luca. One of the things that I found fascinating was the fact that there were previous photos from the Apollo 15 and 17 missions which showed this cigar-shaped craft on the backside of the moon. And so we have previous missions also which confirm the possibility of this craft being on the dark side of the moon.
Yes, and the first indication came from William Rutledge, the main source of information, because he was the man who points out, who underlines the presence of those pictures at the Lunar and Planetary Institute website, because nobody knew anything about those pictures, and they were available, they were in the public domain, even before William Rutledge came out with this fascinating story in April 2007. And the Lunar Planetary Institute in Houston is directed by Universities Space Research Association. And it is an institution recognized by National Academy of Sciences. So we are talking about official documents by NASA, hosted by a very important institution. And nobody can deny the presence of those pictures or their, reality, because they are official NASA documents. Of course, somebody could say, it looks like a mountain. Yes, but the problem is that close to this so-called strange cigar-shaped mountain, there is a very strange anomaly, another one, which is a triangle, object. So at the same time, we have two anomalies in the same zone, on the far side of the moon, which is not a coincidence, according to me. But another thing that I want to point out with you, Zen, is about the footage uploaded on rever.com, in which we can see an astronaut or somebody who looks like an astronaut, which is playing with the camera. I don't know if you remember, there is a strange creature, and William Rutledge called this creature, Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa, yes.
It is a nickname, of course. And he told me that they brought the creature who was not dead, not alive, like in a dead zone,
Animated state.
Yes. They brought the creature on board the LAM. So on rever.com, you have a footage, and you can see the creature on a hammock on board the LAM. Somebody on the internet wrote that it is not an authentic footage because there is gravity inside the LAM. I don't know if you read something about like this. The problem is this one. The people maybe don't know that inside the LAM, the astronauts have special shoes. Did you know this, then? I made a research. I found out that the astronauts, the Apollo astronauts, had special shoes, and their name was Velcro shoes. I found a document written by Donald Slayton, who was a very famous American astronaut. It is a memorandum, and the memorandum is called LAM Zero Gravity Support and Restraint Evaluation. The date is February 1st, 1965, and there is written, Velcro shoes that would be used together with Velcro peel carpeting on the cabin floor of the spacecraft. So we have a strong evidence that when you take a shooting with a camera inside the lab, you don't see, the astronauts on the moon like in zero gravity, because they fought to have a system to restrain the astronauts on the ground. And the people don't know this.
Right, so they can move and stuff.
So the fact
inside the capsule.
Yes, they have to walk, but not like in zero gravity.
Right.
So this is a strong evidence. Another evidence that I found, I don't know if you know the name of Oriana Fallaci. Have you ever heard about her? She was a very famous Italian journalist who lived in New York City. She wrote many books about the Vietnam War, about wars everywhere. She was a reporter. And she died a few years ago. She was a great journalist. And she wrote a book that I suggest you to read, and you can find it in English. The title is If the Sun Dies. And she wrote this book because she was hosted by NASA during the 60 years of the last century. At the end of the book, there is one chapter dedicated to her visit inside, a Grumman facility in Long Island in Manhattan. And when she is inside a lab, a true lab, we are talking about, a true lab, there is a technician. Inside the book, you can find the explanation of the Velcro shoes.
And how they use that inside the module, so that you said it was Velcro? And
Velcro
so they
shoes
have Velcro
for the astronaut inside the lab.
To be able to move around.
If you watch the footage, there is this presumed astronaut, and it looks like, very, very fixed to the floor, which makes sense.
Let me reiterate real quick, Luca, for the listeners and viewers that are not familiar with William Rutledge or the video, because William Rutledge uploaded video of the Apollo 20 flyover across the lunar surface to actually land. And in that video, it has footage of the flyover of this alien craft, and then how the camera focuses on the craft, shows different aspects of it, and how they're talking about the coordinates, where the craft is located, and different things that they see. Like they say they see the landing gear and a bunch of gold metal parts, and how the ship itself is pockmarked with meteors and asteroid impacts, and it looks like they say it looks like it's been there for billions of years. And so,
yes, sorry if I interrupt you. About the billion of years, Moonwalk 1966 Delta, had a contact with one of my sources, and he explained to him that there was a misunderstanding between mission control, and this is what I have understood, and the crew. Because if the cigar-shaped object is authentic, if I have, many clues, but I can be wrong. I don't want to say I am right. Everybody else does not understand. But if it is an authentic spacecraft, it is likely that the spacecraft is millions of years old and not billions of years old. Because, for example, you have to think about the Earth has an age of 4.5 billion of years. So we cannot, say that it is not possible to have artifacts of 1.5 billion. No, it could be, but maybe
even
yes.
Well, I was going to say, Luca, even if it's only 3,000 years old, that's still older than anything that we could have put up there. It wasn't done by humanity. We have all the Sumerian legends that talk about the fallen angels and how they had populated Mars with previous civilizations, and how they used the moon as a wayward station to move gold to their planet, the Nibiru.
Yes,
and so we
Mars,
have all those old legends.
Yes, because on the moon you have less gravity, so it is simple, to put into orbit a weight, because if the gravity is lower, you spend less fuel, so it's cheaper, it's simple. Even using Mars as outpost, because the mass of Mars is less than the Earth mass. It makes sense. But at the end of the interview, William Rutledge, the presumed Apollo 20 commander, told me something about economics. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that?
Remind me of this.
I will read for you the last answer that he gave to me, so we can comment together, because I think it's very important.
Please. While Luca is looking
the answer was the following.
Okay.
There is a question you did ask for, and I'm always surprised that nobody does. This could be your question. I put the number 27. He put another number because he made a mistake, but the interview was an adaptation that I created, because when you use the YouTube general message to create an interview, it is very difficult, because if your message is too long, YouTube general messages cuts the message in several pieces. So I had to compose a big collage, a big puzzle. So the answer was, why it is necessary to hide UFOs, why disinformation, why putting all this under the carpet? It's question of economics. All currencies on Earth are based on the value of gold. Not many citizens know that gold is an extraterrestrial metal coming from the depth of a star. When a star is dying, its mass is growing, atoms are compressed, and when the star explodes, it spreads large amounts of gold in young solar systems. That's why gold is not a mineral to treat, but a perfect carbon-free metal. This means that it is the most common substance in the universe, no more value than a piece of plastic. That's enough to put down all world currencies. Imagine also that the neighbor, extraterrestrial entity, if I remember, says coffee has a good taste, rare in this galaxy. The only perspective of trading coffee through universe would displace the economic power to countries of the South in one day. You see, not a problem of panic, but simply a problem of economy. This is the end of the interview with William Rutledge. If you think about what it is going on now in the world, you realize that what William Rutledge told me, is very important. And I found an article written on a very specific magazine. It was the Journal of Geophysical Research, and it was written by Jeffrey Karger, who belongs to the U.S. Geological Survey. And it was about the possibility, to get metals from asteroids. And I found an essay, an Italian essay, in which there is a comment about this. And the author, who is Nanni Riccobono, says that Jeffrey Karger pointed out that there was, the possibility that if we put some outposts, on some asteroids to get metals, we can have, as a result, like a, how do you say in English? Like a
mining outpost?
No, you have an effect on the economics. You can have a problem because you can change the values of metals.
Right.
So you can have. Do you understand what I mean?
Right.
If you find, for example, if you find oil, in a country where oil is not there, the answer and the need of oil, can change. The price of oil can change. So if you have a great amount of metals, and this amount is coming from asteroids, you can have a different economy, but many people can lose the job, for example.
Well, you know what it reminds me of, Luca? The way that diamonds here on this planet are not even a very rare stone. They're only semi-precious stones, but they manage how much is released out into the public so that they can maintain the value of those diamonds, even though they're not very rare. And so you're right, if we did all of a sudden have an abundance of gold, with gold being not a very rare metal, especially, on asteroids and other aspects of space, then that could create such abundance here that, those that control the power and the wealth would not be as powerful and as wealthy. And that would be one of the reasons why they would want to maintain control of that as well. But let us go back to the Apollo 20 story, because I want to cover this in detail. First off, can you tell us William Rutledge was the commander of the Apollo 20 mission that landed there on the moon by the cigar-shaped craft. And William Rutledge, in his interview with you, talked about exploring the craft and also of finding the Mona Lisa EBE, which he says had 6 fingers and 6 toes, which is something else that ties to the Canaanite bloodline, the bloodline of Goliath in the Bible, the 6 fingers and 6 toes.
But
can you
the creature,
tell us?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us
I
more
will tell
about
you
that.
a little bit more what I can remember. The creature was not found inside a cigar-shaped object, according to his story and according to the report made by Moonwalker 1966 Delta, the Apollo 19 commander who survived to the incident. Mona Lisa, the female creature from another solar system, probably, was found inside a triangular spacecraft close to the cigar-shaped object. And there is no contradiction among the William Rutledge interview and the Apollo 19 commander interview. Of course, you know, if you try to read all the story, it is very easy, you know, to make confusion. Because the main focus of the Apollo 20 story is not the triangular spacecraft, but even in the interview that William Rutledge granted to me, there is this spacecraft mentioned inside the interview. There is a passage in which William Rutledge told me that they explored the big spacecraft, not along all the, you know, all the inside everything. They didn't explore everything, of course. They didn't have time, and maybe it was not scheduled. But what I understood, the Apollo 20 mission, but even at the Apollo 19, had several steps. One of them was to visit the so-called city. And among the footage on YouTube, I want to say, to remember to everybody, to remind to everybody, that the video of the city is a fake. But this does not mean that there is not such a structure on the far side of the moon. There are many witnesses, many testimonies of former Air Force and NASA technicians who said something about strange anomalies and strange structures on the moon, and especially on the far side of the moon. And the only thing that we can know without doubt is that the video of the city is a fake.
Yes.
Another
isn't the audio from a different mission? Isn't the audio also like they did the so-called rover? The audio was from a different Apollo mission?
It comes from the Apollo 15 mission. It is the voice of Charles Peter Corral, if I remember. And the guy, the first guy, one of the first people who found out this was Mr. Charles Gilbert Wright, who is an American citizen, who was very kind with me. He wrote me a few emails, and he gave me the permission to mention him. So I wrote even something about him. And he found out that the audio that we can hear in one of the footages uploaded by William Rutledge is a conversation among the astronaut Scott, Apollo 15, and Allen. Allen, I think maybe he is one of the person in charge at the mission control, maybe. So we have a story with some contamination, some contradiction, but the point is always the same. What is the point? The point is the following. When you have a leak of information about UFOs or extraterrestrial, you have always, you have a mixture, because you have a truth which is contaminated by something which has, you know, an historical context, but it is a mixture, you know. So you have an attempt to confuse, but at the same time, you have some evidence. It is a strategy. You can call it a strategy of confusion. There is a famous journalist here in Italy. His name is Dr. Roberto Pinotti, who wrote a lot about this strategy of confusion. But if you remember what I told you before we said a few words about Barry Goldwater, the senator, the U.S. senator. He wrote in that famous letter that he knew that at the highest levels of the American institution there was an agenda of disclosure. But if you are following an agenda of disclosure, of course, at the same time, you have to calm, you know, the situation. And the best solution is to have a leak of information with truth, at the same time, you know, something which is not true, like a fake. But you have always to remember, you know, you cannot have 100% story without mistakes, without contradiction, because this is not the line that they are following. The line that they are following, it is the public acclamation program.
Right.
The public acclamation program is simple. You have some evidence, but with contamination.
Right. To create still that confusion and that dialogue of unbelief.
Yeah, but we are here to talk, so it means that, you know, the people can find something, you know, they can think, they can search for the truth, they can have discussions.
Let me ask you this, Luca. Have you tried contacting Leonov to get confirmation of this story?
The only thing that I can tell you, that I know without doubt, that Leonov was contacted by someone. I cannot tell you who is. I know his name, I know his surname, but I cannot say anything about this.
Okay, all right.
And I know the answer by Leonov.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that to another time for when you feel comfortable to make further revelations on this story. And, you know, at some other point, whenever you feel comfortable making further revelations on Commander 19 and his testimony, we would certainly be honored to carry that as well. But let's continue on. Many astronauts, such as Edgar Mitchell, are now coming forward with official disclosure. Do you feel...
maybe it is not a coincidence. Think about Dr. Edgar Mitchell for many years, you know, was interested in the borders of space exploration. He was convinced that we are not alone. But last year, you know, with Nick Margerison from Kerrang Radio, made those, you know, amazing statements. Maybe it is not a coincidence, because Rutledge story came out in April and May 2007, and 1 year later, you know, July 2008, Dr. Edgar Mitchell says, you know, to the general public that he knows without doubt that the government knows about the presence of aliens, which is amazing. Maybe Dr. Edgar Mitchell is following an agenda, like, for example, Colonel Corso, who died in 1997.
I think more and more of the astronauts, as you said, the acclimation program and the official disclosure program, both are being accelerated to some point. And I think a lot has to do with something that you did with Project Camelot when you were talking about the return of Nibiru and Planet X. I think that because of that return, that official disclosure is coming at an accelerated pace. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, Zane, there are 2 points, touched by William Rutledge in the interview with me. The interview took place in May 2007. He told me that since that time, we could have an increase of UFO phenomena. I don't know if you remember, but William Rutledge 2 years ago wrote in the interview, in one of the answers to my questions, that there would have been an increase of UFO, apparitions, UFO sightings, and this is what we are experiencing, what we are having now at every latitude, in every country. If you give a look to the news, almost in every country there is a sighting, almost once a week,
Right.
It is a little bit strange. So William Rutledge was right. Another thing that he said to me, that it is something about Nibiru, because first of all I was very curious because he mentioned to me the date of 2012. But he didn't say anything about this. So I asked him, but did you mention the date of 2012 because of the return of Planet X? Did you know anything about this? So what I understood that he didn't know anything. I mean, maybe he has and he had some contacts, but he is not just an insider, from the Planet X problem. But I'm sure that he mentioned the date of 2012 because maybe he had some contacts, at the highest levels of the government.
Right.
And this is a problem not just for the U.S. government. This is a problem if there is, if there is a truth behind, the so-called problem of Planet X return. It is a problem for everybody, for the Russian Federation, the U.S. government, for Italy, for Germany, England.
Well, just what the Colburn Bible talks about with the return of the destroyer, and how it describes, the Planet X returning and the chaos and the devastation that it will bring to our planet with its return. And then if you study Revelation, the end, the return of Wormwood is the return of Nibiru, and then it talks about the asteroid impacts and how the moon is darkened and the sun is hidden and clouds are formed from the asteroid impacts, and it talks about 1/3 of the seas, of the creatures in the seas dying, and 1/3 of all the ships being destroyed. I mean, there's massive devastation that is supposed to come with the return of this planet. But we're going to save that for a whole nother show, Luca, because I know that would take a whole another hour and a half in itself.
Yeah.
But continuing on, yes, let's continue on with the William Rutledge story. You stated that the William Rutledge you thought that had contacted you initially is not the same William Rutledge that is maybe uploading new videos. Can you explain that a little bit more?
The last contact that I had with William Rutledge, whoever William Rutledge is, was in July 2007. From that time, I never had again, any kind of contact. From my point of view, the same person, from my point of view, on reverse.com, there is the same person or the same group of people who are leaking information. So I think this because there are some dialogues among William Rutledge and I that I didn't make public, and they were about Nibiru. So when he uploaded, on reverse.com some presumed footage of a trajectory, computer graphica video to show a possible trajectory of Nibiru inside the solar system through the ecliptic plane, I was not surprised. Many people were surprised, you know. The public was, I read the comments, you know, this guy is talking about Nibiru, but it does make sense, you know. I had a dialogue, you know, which is not public, and William Rutledge and I talked about Zechariah Sitchin, we talked about Horbiger, we talked about Velikovsky. So I think the same person on Rever.com is the same person who was retired AFB on YouTube. And as a matter of fact, if Mona Lisa footage is a fake, how much money did they spend to realize such an outstanding footage?
Absolutely.
So it does not make sense, you know, to waste a lot of money if you are not gaining money back.
Right.
And
well, one of the things, too, that I found fascinating was the fact that you took 3 different screenshots from the flyover, the Apollo 20 flyover, and how you were able to match that with a lunar map and the topography of the lunar surface with what was shown on the video. Can you explain that a little bit?
Every picture that I found on public domain, because all the pictures I found, all the details, you know, are coming from official NASA documents.
Right.
And then there is the footage from William Rutledge.
Yeah, and it seems to match up quite well. Luca,
you have to remember, you have two kinds of cameras. You have the Westinghouse, you know, TV camera, and then you have the 16mm camera. And there are 2 different tools, you know. You have the 16mm Maurer data acquisition camera and the Westinghouse color TV camera. You have the footage from the Command and Service Module made by Leona Marietta Snyder at more than 100 kilometers, you know, over the Fermi World Plane. And then you have the flyover of the lunar excursion module of the LAM. It was the Phoenix module, you know. You have the Constellation module in orbit and the Phoenix LAM with the 2 men, you know, of the crew. And in that particular occasion, the crew was composed by Alexei Leonov, according to the William Rutledge story, and William Rutledge himself. But in the video that you can see on Rever.com, you don't have Alexei Leonov. Some people, you know, made comments like this: "Oh, this guy does not look like Alexei Leonov." Of course, but there is not written that he is Alexei Leonov. If that footage is authentic, that man, you know, do you remember before, no? He said something about the Velcro shoes, you know, the Velcro shoes in charge to keep the astronauts inside the lunar and excursion module close, you know, restrained to the surface.
Right.
If that footage is authentic, that man is William Rutledge, not Alexei Leonov. That man is William Rutledge. How can I say this? Of course, the answer is very simple. Because the lunar and excursion module was, you know, a spacecraft for 2 people, 2 astronauts.
Right.
The mission took place, you know, had a crew of 3 members. One was inside the Command and Service Module in orbit, you know, in a parking orbit around the moon for the other astronauts. And the other astronauts were Alexei Leonov, the Soviet cosmonaut, the hero of the Soviet Union, and William Rutledge. If that man is not Alexei Leonov, of course, the only Other answer is that man is William Rutledge.
William Rutledge.
Another
Absolutely.
thing that I want to point out, very important. Do you remember the film Philadelphia by Jonathan Demme with Tom Hanks? Did you see that movie?
Say that one more time. Which one? What movie?
Philadelphia.
Oh, yes, the Philadelphia Experiment.
About the problem 8. Do you remember, the lawyer,
Yes.
Tom Hanks, who lost the job because of the illness? Do you remember at the end of the movie there is a discussion, inside the courtroom between the people in charge to find a sentence, the civilians, how do you say, the jury, the members of the, how do you say in
Jury.
English? I don't remember. The jury,
Jury?
One of them says something like that, I don't understand. If you have, a very expensive aircraft, you have to send this aircraft in enemy territory, in a difficult mission. Are you going to choose a very, very smart pilot? Of course, the answer is no. You will choose one of your best pilots.
Yes.
Do you agree with me or no? This is, the short passage from that movie. And now, I'm asking to you then, if you are going to send, some man on the far side of the moon, are you going to choose the best pilot of the world for a difficult mission? Or are you choosing somebody, from the civilian people? Of course, the answer is simple. The best pilots in the world are from the military. So what I'm talking about is very simple. William Rutledge said many times that he was a civilian test pilot.
Right.
Yes, maybe he was a civilian test pilot, but during his life, I'm very convinced he was a military pilot.
Right.
With the United States Air Force. And I'm sure also that his name is really William Rutledge. But I'm giving some clues, to the people to understand that they have to watch from different angles, for different points of view, all this story, because otherwise they can miss something.
Right. Do you think that William Rutledge will release more videos soon? And also, do you have any idea on how much information or how much video footage he has?
I think we can see, if you remember, on the YouTube page of William Rutledge, on his account, he removed all the videos except one, which is a sort of summary video of the story. I don't know if you didn't give a look in the last weeks. If you look up the YouTube, if you search for retired AFB on YouTube, you will find his account. You will find a very old message from him, by him. And he told us that he moved to Rever.com, but there is a video uploaded by him. It is like a trailer. Inside the trailer, there are pieces of different footages, and one of them is not public yet. And it looks like the internal part of the spaceship. If you watch carefully that movie, you can realize that it appears, like a sort of trailer of something that we can see in the future. The problem is that what was the answer from the mass media to this story? And the answer is very simple. If you exclude, if we don't consider the Kevin Smith show, which covered the story in October 2007, and the Bob Kvyat comments, the answer from the mass media world was an absolute silence.
Right.
So I think that William Rutledge, Moonwalker 1966 Delta are waiting for an answer, maybe not from the public, maybe not from the mass media, but from the government. But not just from the U.S. government, because this is an international issue. If there are some clues, of reality, if there is something of true in this story, this story is beyond the borders, beyond the national borders. Not only because we are talking about classified mission, among Soviet Union, United States of America, and maybe even with the collaboration of the United Kingdom and France, maybe. We are talking about a problem with influence of science, influence of way of life, influence of academic knowledge. This is an international problem.
Absolutely.
So,
that actually brings in... Go ahead, Luca. Go ahead.
Yeah, the problem is William Rutledge, whoever William Rutledge is, and Moonwalker 1966 Delta are waiting for something. But up to now, I don't see a strong reaction. The only positive thing that we had in the last month, I think, are the declaration made by some Japanese politicians. All these statements made by this Japanese politician were made after the disclosure by William Rutledge. And they were statements on the possibility of extraterrestrial life in the universe. And one of the statements was made by the Minister of the Auto Defense Force of Japan.
Wow.
So it was covered by Fox, by other networks, and 3 different politicians in the same week. And you have to remember that Japan, has a probe in orbit around the moon.
That
so
they just got up there.
Yes,
never mind. I wanted to ask you a question. Let me ask you this question, Luca. As far as that, have you seen the video that they have released from this probe that the Japanese have put up? Because supposedly on the video that they released, this high-definition video of the moon's surface, somebody has leaked some other like zoom-in shots of this video that show anomalies, and it's supposedly that it even shows some craft on the moon's surface in this Japanese probe high-definition video. Have you seen that, Luca?
I saw some images. I saw the rise of the Earth from the moon because of the Kaguya probe. I didn't see so far what you are talking about, but I am very convinced that the Japanese space agency, the JAXA, knows everything about the far side of the moon. And I read on the internet that there was an internaut. I don't remember his nickname. Sorry, I apologize with you and with the public, but he wrote on the internet that he had a contact with some members of the Japanese space agency, and the revelation that he made is the following. I don't know if we can trust about this revelation, but I'm going to tell you. It is the following. In September 2009, maybe there will be a disclosure from the Japanese space agency.
Wow.
You have to, to think about that this is a statement made by just an internet user, So it is not an official declaration by someone very important.
Right.
It's a clue, I think this person is sincere. He had some contacts with members of the Japanese staff, from the Japan.
If they have this probe up there, then they obviously know what we know, because
even China has another probe.
Right, and India too.
Yeah, India. So maybe we are facing, a future close to us in which maybe some government will take some steps, towards a disclosure. Maybe.
Yes, absolutely. Which brings me to another question for you, Luca. Is there anything about this story that you can share with us that the people do not yet know about the Apollo 19 and 20 story?
Yes. I'm going to read for you, for the public, what William Rutledge told me about the alien technology.
Okay.
I did not write anything so far. I didn't not make public what I'm reading for you. Okay, it is something that comes from a message that I received on my YouTube account. It was at the end of May. It is the following: about technology on triangle ships and about the Roswell crash. Many technology were found. Corso spoke about some of them, but in surprise, he didn't tell more. In 1947, 6 ships, about fiber optics, mylar, integrated chips, but others were found. A kind of transparent steel. This was a microperforate metal used in pressure discs, used apparently to establish soft equalization of pressure, and it had a transparent property. Metal with memory of form. After the accident, the next morning, some parts of the craft were regaining the original shape. Claude's computer. This is the only name I can find. There was a computer printed on a large piece of cloth. Then, if you remember, in one of the footage uploaded by Apollo 20 Commander, by William Rutledge, you can see a sort of, cloud computer. I don't know if you remember, on Rever.com, when there is one of the footages about the Ebbe Mona Lisa.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember? There is a close-up of something very similar to a cloud, but it looks like a cloud computer.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I do remember.
You can have a look when you have time.
Like a cloth.
Okay. Yeah, a cloth, like a suit, by suit with
fabric.
chip. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, cloth computer. This is the only name I can find. Okay.
Wow.
There was a computer printed on a large piece of cloth. Fibers were made with different kind of metal connected. It was metal fibers with gradient of property. The memory blocks were lines of fiber silicon with prion. The internal clock was made with polonium. It seems to the engineers that the computer was not analogic, not binary, but had symbolic processors. This means instead of comparing this is equal to that, the answer could be this is the symbol of that. This is the founding on artificial intelligence. What was amazing was to deploy this piece of computer, and on microscope, it's a marvel to see silver, gold, silicon, other materials connected together. Can you hear me, Zeng?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm listening with utmost interest.
Yes. I have the last sentence about the propulsion. I'm not sure if William Rutledge in this answer to me is talking about the spacecraft on the far side of the moon, on the spacecraft found out by the Army during 1947. So I'm not sure.
So you're saying that the technology that was found in Roswell is also similar to the technology that was found in this cigar-shaped craft or the triangular craft on the
I
dark
did
substance.
not understand what is in what I read for you. I did not understand where is the reference to Roswell and Alamogordo crash. Where is
Right.
the reference to what they found the moon? However, I will read for you what he told me about propulsion. The propulsion
Okay.
system. The wing
All right.
border is covered with electrodes, spaced by 10 centimeters, who receive 300 volts. The total power of the ship is 30 Teslas. The MHD main propulsion is helped by MHD brakes, and ionized layer is produced on the surface of the ship from a honeycomb barniment which protects the ship at high speeds. The friction against molecules at high speed is used by the MHD motor to re-alimент the main motor. But the main information on triangular ships was the massive amount of gold used inside.
Wow. So they were collecting gold inside the triangular ships?
This is what we can understand. Another thing that he told me is that about the Roswell crash, in those months, there were 6 ships recovered. 6, not just one.
Right.
But between Alamogordo and Roswell, 6 ships. And the reason for that, it was the following. Let me read for you something. Listen to me. 6 craft fell on Earth between Alamogordo and Roswell. This is a message by Rutledge from May 2007. 5 in Alamogordo. All were hit by lightning strikes, I think, or had problems and crashed later. The analysis showed that this aircraft used ionized plasma around the plane with a power of 30 Teslas, diffused by electrodes on the wing, producing 300 volts on the top of the wings. It had been deducted that these ships came from a world, I think, where thunder strikes do not occur. Okay, and I give you another piece of revelation. We could call it a revelation.
Okay, we appreciate
it. Two or three persons around the world and myself saw a footage that Rutledge did not make public.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure, yes. This is a footage not about extraterrestrials. It's not about, it's about alien technology, probably. Because it's a movie, it's a short, like a documentary, taken probably at Massachusetts Institute of Technology during the 40s years of the last century. And William Rutledge told me that he was going to make public the footage. He made a test with me and with other people. They were friends of him, on YouTube. Just two of them. I remember two YouTube users, if I remember. So only 3 people, including myself, saw this footage. The footage is not available anymore on YouTube because it was removed by William Rutledge, if I remember, in June or July 2007. It was without audio, it was so no sound, and you could see in the footage some engineers, they were working on something very similar to a transistor. And William Rutledge told me that it was the transfer of technology. It was the attempt, to create the transistors for the first time.
Backward engineering, yes.
Yes, back engineering. And he told me also that he was going to made public the footage, but he needed to remove the faces of the engineers. Because in the footage you could see the face of one of the engineers. So the thing that I can do, this I can do without problem, is to send you a frame from the footage in which the face of the engineer is not visible. This is, I can do it.
Okay, well, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, I will do it because I'm not in the position to give a technical comment on the video, because I'm not an expert of electronics. I don't know almost anything about this. So maybe somebody could say a few words about the frame.
Yes. Well, we'll ask the listening audience if anybody has any idea, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have technical expertise and understand NASA lingo a lot greater than we do.
Let me tell you another thing, and I will quote a statement made by Rutledge on Thursday of May 2007 about this footage. So I have a movie depicting the transfer of transistors to integrate circuits for building memory block for the Apollo AGC computer. AGC means Apollo Guidance Computer. So this could explain the great supremacy of the U.S. Government, of the NASA and of the U.S. Air Force.
Space shuttle program, yes.
Everything. No, not only the space shuttle, even before, because the first space agency to use a computer, in orbit,
NASA altogether,
was NASA with Gemini. So because the Soviet space agency had another point of view. They used to send into space military men and women, but even without knowledge, of the classical knowledge of a pilot. NASA had another policy. Every astronaut, it doesn't matter man or woman, must and had to have in the past a very important and specific knowledge as pilot. This is the
so they could do the craft. So are you saying that you think that the computer and computer technology was back engineered from those crafts?
A lot of help came from that. This is what I understood. If you read carefully the interview with Moonwalker 1966 Delta, one of the first answers, he says clearly this, that the alien technology, if you read once again the interview, the alien technology and the knowledge of the alien technology was part of the space program. Of course, we're talking about classified space program.
Absolutely. Luca, we've got 2 minutes left. I want to thank you and honor you for what you're doing and sharing your story with the world. And I want to ask all the listeners and viewers to please pray for Luca and his family and for the protection of his family. And I ask the Lord and Yeshua, Savior, Messiah, to bless you and all that you're doing and enable you to get this story out there and to bring the truth to this. And we look forward to further revelations from you. In closing, I want to ask you, if this story were true, what do you think it means for humanity as a whole? And we got 60 seconds.
It's a difficult answer.
In 1 minute, right?
The only thing that I can say, first of all, I thank you very much for everything you are doing to help the people to have an open mind. It's very important. And the only thing that I want to say to everybody is do your homeworks. Do your homework and try to understand by yourself, Don't trust anybody. Trust just what you are able to understand by yourself. This is what I can suggest.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to thank you again, Luca, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon. And to the listening audience, we will be talking to you real soon as well, and I'll put Luca's information and website information on the links to this show. And we'll talk to you real soon again, Luca. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you, Tang. It was a pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
1972, if I remember. It was the last mission, the moon, for a crew. But it was the Apollo 18, and you can find some reference on NASA documents online. And the Apollo 18 was part of a joint mission. It was a rendezvous in orbit between the Soyuz 19 capsule, a Soviet capsule, and the Apollo 18, the American capsule, and there was the historical meeting in the space between the two crews, the American crew and the Soviet crew. So Apollo 19 and Apollo 20 officially never occurred, and they were canceled missions because of problems of budget. But we are talking about some classified missions. According to our sources, one is William Rutledge, and on YouTube, his YouTube nickname was and is still now retired AFB, and the other source of information, another whistleblower, is Moonwalker 1966 Delta on YouTube, and you told the general public before that he is anonymous. Yes, but I know his name. I know his name, but for the moment, I don't want to disclose the name because it doesn't make sense. First of all, because I have to protect his identity, and even I'm not sure that he is the guy he told me he is, but I had some clues that he is a sincere person, and I can give you later on during our conversation some details about what I have understood.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Before we go into this story, and I agree with you, it is an astounding story, needs to be told, the world needs to be made aware of it. But before we go into the Apollo 19 and 20 missions, I'm asking you, do you think that those missions were classified and made covert because of the target and what they were going up there to do? That being locating and landing near and exploring this so-called cigar-shaped alien spacecraft on the dark side of the moon.
Blog Talk Radio.
And in those days, there were giants in the land, and the sons of the angels of God looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and took of them wives, and their sons became of old Greek men of renown. So they have been mixing with us on a genetic level since the time of Enoch and Ezekiel's will.
Here on Earth we're intrigued by the sun, moon, and stars, and imagine there's got to be planets like ours. So conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose we lost. That indeed they believe that these might be our gods, or that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve and eventually reach what they seek and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they've fallen. The works of our hands are but just filthy rags, so we travel the lands to dig up our past. Time elapses, and with it are much of the facts. Some imagine that God came in alien craft. They react in this way, they're so desperate for meaning and purpose, but satanic service, they know that they have evil motives. Am I making you nervous? I'm just scratching the surface. Eyes from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear, heed the warning. The time draws near, see the lines from Ezekiel's wheel. When the skies unfold like scrolls in the breaking of seals, he's a warning. The message is clear, he's a warning. The time draws near. In the blink of an eye, all believers will be raptured. Anyone left receives the mark of the capture. This leader will arise, claim his origins are alien, possessed by Satan on the side of the Nephilim. Profess those who left held us back from evolving, and now that they're gone, we'll solve all of Earth's problems. The worship of any one God will be halted. Evolve into gods and ourselves be exalted. They'll play on these lines, and in time they'll devise and arrive at a plan that will help hypnotize all the ones left behind, the spiritually blind. He's stolen their souls, now he's stealing their minds. It's already started, we're seeing the signs. Just study the word, prophecies all aligned. They'll chop off the heads of all those who fight at one earth, one world. Aren't you excited? The lines from Ezekiel's wheel. When the skies unfold like scrolls in the breaking of seals, he's a warning. The message is clear, he's a warning. The time draws near, see the lines from Ezekiel's wheel. When the skies unfold like scrolls in the breaking of seals, he's a warning. The message is clear, he's a warning. The time draws near.
Hello, readers, listeners, and viewers. This is Zen Garcia with FallenAngels.tv. It's March 20th, 2009, the first day of spring, and it's glorious out here in Athens, Georgia. We're streaming live from the East Coast. I have today with me Luca Scantamburlo, a freelance journalist and author from Italy, and he is the one that was instrumental in bringing us the Apollo story and in covering in more details the videos that were released by William Rutledge on YouTube and other sites like Rever.com, and it has caused quite a stir. I myself, upon finding and viewing the videos, tried to get in contact with the leakers of the videos, but was unsuccessful in ascertaining that contact. But our guest today, Luca Scantamburlo, has actually interviewed over general messages through a YouTube account William Rutledge and another person who is as yet remains anonymous, a Commander 19. Luca Scantamburlo, thank you for joining us, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us an introduction on yourself, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Zane. Good evening to all your listeners, and good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to stay with you and to say a few words about my experience, about what I have understood and what I can remember, because this is a big story, and I'm not the owner of the truth. I got some little pieces of a big puzzle. It costed me a lot of pain, and it was very difficult for me to try to break the wall of the mass media silence. I got the attention from, for example, the Kevin Smith show in the United States, in Phoenix, in Arizona, even Bob Kivian. I think he works for the Fox, the network, the TV network Fox. But he had a conversation, a phone conversation with Kevin Smith, and they talked a lot about what I did and about the interview with William Rutledge, the alleged, the presumed commander of the Apollo 20 mission, which officially never occurred, because the last Apollo mission is not the Apollo 17, which took place in December 19. What I strongly believe, what I am convinced, it is that if there are evidence in the solar system of extraterrestrial artifacts, everybody must remember what the Brookings Institution made during the last century, in the 60 years of the last century, at the House of Representatives, at the U.S. Congress. there was a relation report by the Brookings Institution, and inside the Brookings Institution report, there was written clearly that many scientists, we are talking about, scientists of from many fields of knowledge, anthropologists, people expert in sociology. It was a think tank, and they made this report for NASA, and the report made some recommendations, for NASA. And NASA was born 1958 during the Eisenhower administration. The recommendation
was very... The name of that report?
The name of the report. Let me remember. Just a moment.
Okay, sure.
I have a piece of paper here with me. So.
Okay. Let me just also cite to the listeners.
The name was
and viewers.
Proposed Studies on the Implications of Peaceful Activities for Human Affairs. Inside the report, then, there was written that in case of finding any kind of evidence of extraterrestrial artifacts in the solar system, the recommendation was the possibility to withdraw from the public the existence of this artifact. This is an official document. So if there is an evidence on the far side of the moon of, a big spacecraft made by someone else, it is obvious to follow the recommendation made by the Brookings Institution during the 60 years of the last century.
Which is to cover it up and to hide it from the public.
Yeah, but the goal was very simple, to avoid the social disorder, to avoid any kind of problem. I can read a few passages so we can understand better. Inside the document, there is written, anthropological files contain many examples of societies sure of their place in the universe, which have disintegrated when they had to associate with previously unfamiliar societies, exposing different ideas and different life ways. Others that survived such an experience usually did so by paying the price of changes in values, attitudes, and behavior. So the first point was to avoid any kind of problems. It is obvious that an agenda of cover-up started because of the recommendation made by a group of scientists, very important.
Right.
It is an official document presented at the U.S. Congress in the United States.
Right, and so it's been part of our legacy as our culture and as our government guides the affairs of the world to basically hide the truth from the people. Yeah,
but at the same time, I remember Barry Goldwater. He was a candidate for the presidential elections in the United States. He wanted to become a president of the United States. He was one of your senators, and he wrote a letter many years ago. I remember, maybe it was in 1975. And in the letter, he wrote that he knew that there was also not only an agenda of cover-up, but at the same time, the people at the highest levels who had, who had the need to know, but at the same time they were elaborating an agenda for disclosure to help the people. So at the same time you have an agenda of cover-up and an agenda of disclosure, what we can call public acclimation program.
Right.
So the problem is, are we facing? We are talking about the Apollo 19, the Apollo 20 missions. Are they part of this public acclamation program?